Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Classes of Mail. My name is Alan Gigax, and in what has already been a very busy day for my guest and me, we are here to bring you another episode to make the magic happen. So, without any further ado, let me introduce my guest, John Murphy. John, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Murphy out of
Yeah.
Branch 4716, Naples, Florida.
4716, the fighting 4716th. All right. So I
Yes.
saw on Facebook that you guys had a rally. I saw with like a big banner printed up today or yesterday or something about the contract.
Yeah, tomorrow is the BFN Build a Fighting NELC call to action to do parking lot pickets, parking lot rallies and flyering and stuff.
Right.
So tomorrow our office is joining that call, and we're gonna do a rally, and I painted up this banner that says Naples carriers for a fair contract now.
Dude, you painted
So
that?
yeah, yeah, it was pretty
Wow.
good.
That's
Yeah, it's
awesome,
12
man.
feet.
Good job.
It's 12 feet long.
Right. Yeah, so it turns out that this thing about having a fair contract now, we did a contract rally at my branch, and then like 2 days later, we got the tentative agreement. It turns out we should have been a little more specific about what kind of contract we were asking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um.
go ahead.
No, me personally, I'm already past this tentative agreement. I'm more concentrating on uh mobilizing our membership to actually feel encouraged to vote, because I assume this tentative agreement discouraged a lot of folks from even bothering participating in our labor union, as I've already had coworkers come up to me about withdrawing from the union, which is probably the worst thing any union member could hear, because that was so disheartening that our union failed us so bad that someone wants to stop being part of this organization.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And unfortunately, because of the way we've been failed, I can see why it would feel hopeless. Because not only do we have Renfro up here who is directly lying to us about what he's been doing for the last 17 months or however long, but then we're going to have to turn around and rely on him again to be our negotiator in arbitration. Where's the hope in
Um, for the hope
that?
is, yeah, my whole thing is hopefully he doesn't send it to arbitration. Hopefully it goes back to the bargaining table. And I'm hoping members across the nation start mobilizing themselves to actually force Renfro to do his job and
Right.
sit at the bargaining table with the post office, which honestly, the tentative agreement seems like it was the post office's first offer.
Yeah, that seems to
And
be the going consensus.
yeah, and as a union, we should be demanding to see what the first offer was. This is a democratic organization, so we have every right to demand that, to see that first offer from the post office.
Yep, that's exactly right. Because if you look at some of the stuff that he said at rap sessions in the past when he was asked about the contract and how strong it was going to be, how much progress we were making, there's no fucking way that's true unless it started out at like $10 an hour for CCAs. Because we don't
Yeah.
we don't move anywhere on the new higher pay scale.
No, and that's the thing. Like once it came out, you previously on your previous episode had C. Moline from Seattle.
Yep.
C was the one that contacted me that Saturday morning at 9 a.m. and it was like right at break time, and I was like, this can't be true. Send it to me, and it was like a
Oh yeah,
17-page document, and
yeah.
I quickly texted it all my coworkers, and I was like, yo, read this and spread this, and I still kept working, and then people were like, yo, this is trash, and I was like, yeah, but it's probably good, and then like people came like were coming up to me and like, yo, this is a dumpster fire. So
It is.
I like took a second to like listen to what people are saying, and like people already did the math, like the top carriers already did the math, and I was like, this is disgraceful.
It is, and it shows just how bad it is in that people's reactions, in many cases, mine included, were like, okay, this has got to be like a hoax or a joke. There's no way that this is the contract we negotiated for. And it
And
is. And it just
yeah,
keeps
and that's the
getting
thing.
worse. Go ahead.
Yes, that's the whole thing. Like, um, with the tentative agreement, it's just depressing from day one. So at this point, now we're just sulking. There's
Right.
nothing to change it. We haven't even read the black and white,
Well,
which,
it's funny
um,
you mentioned that. I'm going to interrupt here because earlier
yeah,
today, we're recording this. I'm not sure exactly what day this is going to be released, but we're recording it on Tuesday, the 29th of October, 2024. And earlier today, um, the Aid Arbitration had on Charlie Murphy or Charlie, yeah,
Charles Miller.
Charlie Miller. Thank you, dude. I'm as fried as anybody. So anyway, Charlie Miller was on, and he had seen some of the black and white of the agreement. And one of the things that in my own podcast I was saying, like, hey, this isn't all bad, is the ability to refuse to go home at 12 hours without any discipline. But Charlie looked at the black and white language of the contract, and that only applies to 8-hour carriers. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, it completely like I just said, we haven't seen the
Yep.
black and white, but it seems like
Right.
he's completely got rid of the work assignment and the
Oh,
10-hour list, which was already kind of wishy washy.
yeah, it just keeps getting worse. It's awful. And to your point though, like don't get out of the union because, and I said this with C as well, this is a chance to reshape the union. You were at the national convention and you saw, like, did you go to the one before that in Chicago?
No, that's when Chicago happened. I got hired at the post office in
Okay,
2021.
gotcha.
So during
Okay,
COVID and all that.
so Boston
So
was the
that
first for both of us.
yeah, Boston was the
Yeah.
first.
Okay. So at Boston, one of the things that I found shocking was how eager people were to just go in lockstep with the executive board and with Renfro and to uncritically just accept anything he said, anything he recommended. And there may have been a time when that was a reasonable course of action. Like, it's reasonable to listen to your elders when you don't have the internet and can't actually find the real information. Because what other choice do you have? But now that is no longer acceptable. We can't just take people's word for it. And this result of this contract shows you why that is, why we don't just believe and blindly follow. And all those people who were pushing back against open bargaining, I hope that they're looking in the mirror now and saying, like, damn, those young people were right.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole open bargaining thing was um
This was
a slap.
exactly the outcome that we feared when we were pushing for open bargaining. This is why we
Yeah.
wanted
And I was gonna say, like, at the
it.
convention, it was like a slap of reality to me, like how
Yep.
people were talking down about the fact that we should not even be allowed to see the first offers. It's
Right.
like both sides see each other's offers, so why can the members not see what the postal service puts forward?
Yeah,
And
that's exactly right.
as a union, we're already like demoralized. So to help boost the union's pride and keep us strong and keep people proud of us, release what the first offer was from the post office.
Show us.
That would boost us. Like clearly the post office thinks of us just as numbers. So like people like what's going on, what's going on, what's going on. It's like release the first offer and then I think that would satisfy a lot of anger, but I think we're past that point where now we need like legit contract campaigns every contract
Right.
cycle and open bargaining side by side comparisons on what's
Oh,
going on weekly.
without question. One of the conspiracy theories about why Renfro wouldn't release why it was closed bargaining was because they didn't want us to see how the sausage is made if we wound up with a shitty result. They wanted to be able to come out no matter what and be like, "Hey, we scored a big victory here. You wouldn't believe how much progress we made, no matter how shitty it was." And now that we see the results, yeah, the conspiracy theory was probably pretty close to the truth, and that's also why we're not going to see where they started and where they wound up for the exact same reason.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah,
And moving forward, um, what
that's why we
members
have
need
to
to
see
start
it
do
moving forward.
and like moving forward from now, once we get the black and white going forward, members need to sit down inside each office and discuss what they want to on the next contract, not just simple resolutions. Like the members need to be part of this and
Yeah,
force that. Um, like like people talk about it all the time with us. Like we don't have any paid maternity leave or paternity leave or any type of paid leave when you had a newborn.
Yeah, it's
And
wild.
to me, that's disgraceful.
It is.
Disgraceful. And that's one of the big things we should be fighting for is for anyone that has a new child, the husband or the wife should be able to, or if they're not married yet, but the man or
Sure.
the wife,
Yeah, the
to
parents.
be able to have paid time off. Yeah, the parent to have
Right.
paid time off.
Yeah, these are reasonable things that, if you look at the platform of Build a Fighting NALC and the things that they're asking for, some of it is just like basic human dignity. Like I want to talk to you a little bit because I know you're dialed into the labor movement as a whole. And one of the things that really resonates with me is the 8-hour day. And you heard Charlie Miller talking about it with Corey, and you've heard it a bunch of places that our union has essentially given up on the 8-hour day. Talk a little bit about what it took to get an 8-hour day, and what do you think it'll take to get back to it?
Oh, the history of building up to the 8 hour day, that could take like a half hour. But
All right, well,
the
give us
fact
the condensed version.
the fact is, workers, it took decades of fighting, literally fighting in the streets and dying to get the 8 hour workday.
And this was in like the
Before it was
1870s and 1880s that we're talking about.
Oh
This is
yeah, it was like
150
the
years ago.
19th century, early 19th century is when they started fighting for the 10 hour day, and
Right.
then they turned into the 8 hour day. But the fact is, people fought and died for these rights, and here we are as a union, where the quote is "Live Better, Work Union," and we're
Right.
giving up one of the most principled stances a union could have is 8 hours work, 8 hours fun, and 8 hours sleep. Um, and that is completely washed away. Now it's you can work 16 hours and 8 hours sleep.
Yeah, well, and you can't even get 8 hours sleep if you work that long because you got to go home, you got to get cleaned up, and so on. So last night here in Las Vegas, there were carriers out delivering the mail as late as 1 a.m.
That I can't even respond to that. I
Yeah,
would cry if I was out till 1 a.m.
it's disgusting. And what is the union doing about it? Like, I get management has a responsibility to staff properly. And they're clearly not doing that. Where I work, we ran off our CCAs. In the summer, we had this glorious situation where we actually had too many CCAs and nobody was getting overtime. And I know some people rely on the overtime. But I was getting 8-hour days all the time, and we had CCAs complaining that they weren't getting enough hours. And so, what management did with the hours for CCAs is they had a few runners, a few hard workers, and those CCAs got all the hours. They were working 60 hours a week, and they burned out and quit. And then at the same time, the other CCAs who were getting 10 hours a week also quit because they couldn't support their families. And now we're left with just a couple CCAs.
Yeah. At least you have CCAs. um,
What is it because you
yeah.
have
It,
PTFs?
no. I'm saying like some of these cities don't even have CCAs because they can't even hire because our wages
Yeah,
are just pure poverty wages.
right. And that's exactly why I want to bring it up, is because not only do we not have enough people now that we have to work these ridiculous long hours, but there's no hope for getting help with the wages that the post office is offering.
Oh yeah. Um, it was last Monday at the union hall in my union hall. They did a sit down where any member could come and listen to Eddie Davis talk about the tentative agreement and his
Is he a
points.
business
And
agent?
then yeah, Eddie Davidson's the business agent for Florida, Georgia, and Carolinas. So then we broke down and we had our own little discussion, and people were like, "Oh, like these wages are good," but I was like, "No, they're not. Like we can't hire anyone here." And then like as a consensus, we came to the agreement that, like no senior carrier would ever advocate for their family member to actually get out of high school and apply for this job. So
Yep.
anyone that says this contract is good is completely lying to you.
Right. And there
And
was
the
always
fact
this hope. Go ahead.
No, that's the thing. And it's like the hope of, oh, we're gonna get rid of like the CCAs, we're gonna get rid of them, make all career and bump the pay up and hire directly to career. It's like that was probably the biggest bargaining thing we could go with, but now it's not happening.
No, none of it happened. It wasn't even close to happening. And, we had CCAs sticking around on this hope that, oh man, I'm going to get this big bump in pay and it's going to be worth all the struggle that I'm putting in now over the long run. And then they see this new contract. And I know one of the best CCAs at my station now, of the few we have left, he's going to take a job at the VA because post office is not sustainable.
No,
No, and
it's
again, going forward, I mean, I wouldn't recommend to anybody. I used to recommend to people, well, like, hey, this is actually a cool time to get in because we're about to get this new contract and it's going to be historic. And so you're going to get a huge pay raise, you're going to get back pay, and once that happens, there'll be a line out the door to get jobs at the post office and you'll already be in. So yeah, come to the post office. And it turns out that was not true.
no, it's yeah,
Right. All right. So what are we doing about it? I I got so sidetracked. We're just bitching about the contract. What
yeah.
what happened today
This is
with
what I
you and
don't.
right? Yeah, it's not productive. So what happened today with you and your postmaster? Tell us something fun.
All right. So I started like with the tentative agreement when it came out, and everyone started reading it, and they got demoralized. And but like with any union, any type of organizing, the bad boss is the perfect organizer, and that's clearly what just happened here. Letter carriers are upset and they're agitated where they want to mobilize, and our nationals going around like, oh, it's fine, just this is the best we could do. But like we know we could do better. We know we cannot settle for these crumbs. We know we could have a real seat at that table and have a slice of that pie. We're not asking for too much, and everyone acknowledges that. So what happened in our office was people were coming up to me like, "Hey, what can we do?" And I was like, um, "We could pass a resolution at our branch, um, endorsing a vote no contract
There
campaign
we go. All right.
recommendation." So one of my senior carriers uh, got a petition going, and next thing I know, I got handed it, and we have 53 routes, and on the thing, there's 52 signatures. I think we didn't get the people that were on the NS day and on vacations, but that's pretty much 90% of the office recommending that our branch does a vote no on the 2024 USPS tentative agreement position. So that's pretty
That's
good.
great. Yeah, that's
So that was
fantastic.
one that it I want to highlight this. Most people have never been part of a union before. So for to put a name, put your signature on a petition, it takes a lot of guts. It might not seem like a lot, but to act collectively like that is what a union is. And I give a shout out to anyone that is taking a stand because you're not fighting the union, you're just reforming our union. And that's
That's
one of the
exactly
things
right.
it's like we're fighting the boss, which is the post office, and by signing a petition saying that we should vote no, it if you're new and young or just inexperienced, it might make you feel hesitant that you're taking on the union too. But no, we're not. We're rebuilding a union,
Right,
and
we're
it's
putting
not
the
attacking the
power
union.
in the hands of the carriers again, back at the
Yes,
grassroots, back at that level, at the rank and file level, and we have the opportunity to reshape this union from a top-down business authoritarian union into a rank and file union where what the members experience actually counts for something. This is an opportunity for this union.
it is a perfect opportunity, and I want to highlight two people right now. It's Trejo and Christian Soto. They're just two regular carriers. They just show up to work, deliver mail. But they reached out to me. They're not in my office. They reached out to me and said, "What can I do?" So we passed along the petition to them, and
Mhm.
they went around. They started going around in their office, the main office in Naples, Florida, and started having the one-on-one conversation, which is the hardest thing to do when organizing, is to
Yep.
have a real honest one-to-one conversation with your coworker about their working and living conditions. And I give them a round of applause for stepping up when leaders should be stepping up, but they're not.
Well, John, and why they came to you is because you are a leader like that, but also you're a major celebrity. So when we were back at the convention, you took a video of me interviewing a couple of other stewards. And that is still like the most seen thing I've ever done. And even recently, I was at a union meeting and somebody goes, "Hey man, weren't you on John Murphy's TikTok page?" So, dude, you're rocking it, man.
Yeah. Um, my whole thing is I was trying to be behind the scenes. I was just trying to deliver mail and keep faith with my union.
Right.
But like this came out and I was like, I just got to kick into overdrive and start putting up um my skills like organizing. So we got the petition signed. We did a letter calling for a special union meeting to talk about the tentative agreement before they release the ballots. And then tomorrow we're joining the National Day of Action, October 30th, and we're doing a parking lot rally. And you mentioned a couple of minutes ago about me and the postmaster, and this is where it
Yeah.
comes in.
Okay.
Um, so most people, like I said, probably have very little organizing experience, especially when it comes to the unions. Um, so I threw around the idea, let's, 48 hours ago, literally 48 hours ago from now, I threw around the idea of organizing a parking lot rally. And I put it out there, and people were like, yeah, let's do it, jokingly.
Hmm.
So the postmaster got in contact with me and was like, you need a permit. And I was like, no, I don't. We're face to
Okay.
face. We're face to face. And like I said, I'm a 3 year carrier. I've been in for almost 4 years, and he's the
Right.
postmaster. And he's like, "You need a permit," and I'm like, "No, we're protected. This is a concerted activity, protected by the NLRB.
Right.
Um, this is we're the employees. You're the employer. We have legit federal labor law protecting us."
Dude,
And he
yeah,
was like,
that's a good
"No."
call. Yeah, obviously you're right, but yeah, go on.
So he was like, "No, you got to contact the sheriff's office or the county, uh, or the police or something." So I said, "All right, go contact them. Prove that you're right."
Hmm.
And come to find out, he was misinformed that it is legit, legal. It is legal for workers, postal workers, to be rallying in their parking lot.
That's awesome,
So
man.
later in the day, later in the day, by the time I got home, he called me back and he's like, "Yeah, sorry that this happened. You're right." And I was like, "All right, cool. But did you tell your managers not to record, film, or harass or talk about this to the employees because that is illegal. That would be an unfair labor practice.
Hmm.
Um, they need to keep their distance and not harass the workers." And he's like, "Yeah, I sent everyone a message, all the managers messages." I was like, "All right, cool."
Right on, man. That's awesome. Good
And
job,
like I,
John.
and like I said, I'm just a regular rank and file member, and um, to take on a postmaster like that is very intimidating. But
Yeah,
as a rank and file member, as a regular union member, education is key to making sure our union survives.
that's it.
Every member
Yeah.
here should read the JCAM, the M41, the M39. But if you're willing to step up and reform our union from the bottom up, which is needed, you also got to start learning labor law. And you mentioned Build a Fighting NALC earlier,
Hmm.
and I want to tie that into the Teamsters. The Teamsters has, for nearly 40 years now, I believe, they've had the Teamsters for a Democratic Union, TDU, and I'm pretty sure that is where we're going towards, is creating a nationwide rank and file movement, from the bottom up. And as we've seen, the Teamsters have done a very good job, because it was the Teamsters for a Democratic Union, the rank and file movement, that put Sean O'Brien into leadership, and they won a historic contract. And I want to highlight the fact also that the UAW was able to, everyone knows the UAW with Sean Fain and winning amazing things, but everything was done within 1 year. He was elected president, and then he organized from the bottom up, from the rank and file, which is called the Unite All Workers for Democracy, UAWD, which is a rank and file movement. and they organized bottom up and got Sean Fain elected, and then they went on strike. So the people at the bottom, the workers at the bottom, have more power collectively than the union officials on top. And as you said earlier, our union is very top heavy. It's not a dictatorship, but it's very top heavy with influence. And I hope in 2026 we see more regular rank and file members at the Las Vegas convention than we've ever seen before, because voting in block on the recommendation of the executive council was a hot topic at the
Oh,
convention,
dude.
which was,
To me,
you
that was the
mentioned this
most
in a couple,
shocking vote. The single most
yes,
shocking vote.
you mentioned that in a couple episodes back, and I recommend everyone to check the episodes out if they haven't heard it yet.
Mm,
But that was the most shocking thing. How people were like, yeah, let's just trust our leadership. Then it's like, why even have a convention if
hmm
we're just going to blindly follow the people at top? The convention is to have a discussion on the floor about where our union goes. It's not to have the person at top tell us what they plan on doing with our union.
Right. And there's a reason that we all bind together like that. I know we're coming near the end of our time. But, you know, the people at the top, they're still just people with their weaknesses. I know we've seen Renfro's weaknesses, but I have weaknesses too. I fuck up just like anybody else does. And that's why we have rules in place. That's why we have checks and balances in place. And if you don't use them, they're useless. And I'm going through that right now with my election. That, there's been all these shenanigans in the election, and it's because we have this good old boy network that is used to just doing things however they feel like doing it, and nobody ever calls them on it. Nobody ever checks. Nobody ever actually reads the rules and expects them to obey the rules. And now we got a guy in there who is a rule reader, and suddenly we're finding all these violations. And you spoke to that earlier, John, how education is so important. If I hadn't have read these rules and read them to my fellow union members, then we'd still be laboring under this essentially dictatorship. And so, John, I got to give you credit for educating people not just about their role in the NALC, but their role in the labor movement in general. You're doing really good work out there. Please give a plug to your TikTok.
Um, my TikTok is Pro Labor Alliance, but I also want to give a big plug to
Mhm.
Labor Notes. There is a book, and if anyone is fired up and actually wants to reform their branch or their region or reform anything about our union, the book you need to buy is $15. The book you need to buy is How to Jumpstart Your Union. It's the lessons from the Chicago Teachers Union. I strongly recommend that because that was a bottom up thing that happened, and it goes into pretty good details on how to go forward. And yeah,
All
that's
right.
that's what I want to highlight is labor
How to
notes.
jumpstart your union.
Yes.
Got it. All right, guys, you got your marching orders. You've heard from John Murphy, the labor organizer, and we know what we need to do. We know where this union needs to go, but we can't do it alone. We need everybody's support. We need everybody pulling on that rope. We need everybody to work together to turn this into a rank and file union. John, thank you very much for coming on to Classes of Mel today. As always, it is a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. Solidarity.
All right. Take care, guys. I'll catch you next time.